Hello, hello, and welcome to Unfiltered Eat Better, Think Better series. This is where we get real about our emotions, mindset, connection to food, and healing, and what it really takes to feel free and feel good in your body and life again. I'm your host, Janie Shah, and in this series, I sit down with everyday people who face challenges with their health, body, their mind, their confidence, or long-held beliefs that have held them back, and found powerful ways to rise and grow through it all. These are real stories, no filters, no fluff. It's just raw conversations about what they struggled with, what actually helped, and how they created transformation from the inside out. So, whether you're on your own journey or just curious on what's possible, you are in the right place. So, here's to eating better, thinking better, and living a phenomenal life. Let's go. Today, I am welcoming on our series Antonia. Welcome, Antonia. I'm so happy to have you here today with us. Again, another incredible soul that I met at Mind Valley in Amsterdam. And I remember where we met, which was in the park, and we were sharing our journey and our story around our health and Hashimoto's. But what's also really cool was to hear how you're a voice doctor and a little bit about how you blend your medical expertise with that sort of deep awareness around mindset and energy and how all of that kind of combines in helping us serve people better. You shared with me your personal journey on healing Hashimoto's, and you've really recognized how mindset plays a really big role in our physical healing, but not just for ourselves, for patients as well. And I'm so excited to be able to dive into this conversation today and talk about all of it, really. So I'd love to just maybe let's start at the beginning. And if you can take us back to when, well, let me put it to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about your Hashimoto's journey first and when you were first diagnosed and what was going on with you? And is that what led you to recognize and understand the importance of our mindset? Which way came around first, the mindset or the health journey?
Well, first, I want to thank you for having me here. It's the very first time for me to share something personal like this publicly because I'm actually a very private person usually. But yeah, when you sent me the invitation, I thought at first, no, 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 I'm not going to do this. But then I thought about it and I thought, okay, if this can help one person or two, then it's definitely worth it. So yeah, here I am. So how did
Thank you.
it how did it happen with the mindset? Actually, it was not the Hashimoto's. That was many, many years later that I got this diagnosis. It was very early in my training. I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor specializing on voice. And I also studied classical singing. And that was actually during my time at the conservatory in Vienna. It was the first time that I got into contact with these kind of body work, yoga, breathing, all these techniques that were also involving the mind and how we connect to our bodies in a mindful way. So that was really how I actually got to know these techniques, and I used it for my performing basically. So as a doctor, I thought that's two separate things. You know, one thing is being on stage as a singer, and that's you have to be connected to yourself and your emotions so that you can you know find the best way to transfer the message of the music. And and I thought, okay, being a doctor is a different job, and you can't use that as a doctor. That's when I was studying. That was my today is totally different. How these things connect. And so then in 2010, I started my training at the University Hospital in Switzerland as an ENT doctor. And then I just, there's a lot of stress, a lot of night shifts, and it's not a very healthy way of working, actually. And I just got an offer to attend a class for stress management. It was called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Technique by John Kabat-Zinn. And this was in 2010. So at the time where most people didn't even know what mindfulness was, at least in my profession, in the medical profession, unless you were maybe
Yeah.
a psychologist or something. And yeah, and that's I just thought, why not try it? I mean, if it's not good, I don't have to keep doing it. So I did. And
Yeah.
that was really the big, it opened a big door for me into a completely different way of being. And that's when I started to understand that what I felt when I was performing this kind of flow state, how you call it, when you were in sync with you and with everything around you, and you feel that this energy comes through you. So when you make music, it's energy that comes through you and goes through into the audience, and you connect that way energetically, emotionally, and with the music. And that's usually what starts to move people, or why some people get just very emotional when they listen to music. And that's what you want. You want to touch people. And that's when I understood that this kind of flow state is not limited to making music. It's everywhere in life. So when we do something that we're very passionate about, um, that we that helps us, or we want to connect with people about the topic that we're very passionate about. So that is the state that we're in, actually. And when you do meditation and body work that connects you with your inner self, that is how you get there. And it's not something that is, when you have a very cerebral job where you work in science, like in medicine, um, that can be there also, and it can actually help you. It helps you to focus. It helps you to be calm, to make the right decisions quickly. And I have to say, I'm forever grateful for this opportunity with this class. I had this wonderful teacher. I owe so much to her because she helped me to open up to this. And yeah, since then, I would say I'm not the person I am today. I'm not the doctor I am today if I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And since then, I have been practicing the mindfulness based stress reduction, and I also tried other meditation techniques that are similar. And this journey took me years after, during the pandemic, to even do the teacher training. So I'm now a certified MBSR teacher, so mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher. And that even opened even more doors for me because I got so much more deeper inside of it. And yeah, so that's my journey with mindfulness.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and the Hashimoto's was something that was diagnosed by chance. So I had a routine laboratory test, and I just thought, okay, I'm 35. I was around 35, I think. I thought the night shifts are getting more tiring. I don't have so much energy. Well, with my lifestyle, no surprise, you get older. And then only when I got the diagnosis of the Hashimoto's, that's when the doctor told me, no, all your symptoms come from that. And then I learned, oh, there's nothing you can do against Hashimoto's. You can take those pills, and if they help, it's good. I took the thyroid hormones, and luckily they helped very much. So my symptoms were gone after I took them. But I always had this need to see it a little bit more holistically, and I wanted to do something myself. So I started reading about nutrition, and yeah, and I thought, well, even if the doctor says scientifically nutrition you can't do anything, why not try to find out what is good for me and what helps, and eat healthier. And then I was lucky that one of my work colleagues, she was trying to lose weight, and she asked me, I want to do a cooking challenge. Would you join me? So we cook healthy food every day and take it to work, and we take turns, and just to be more accountable if we're two people
Yeah.
that are doing it together, and it's more fun. And that was really when I started. I mean, I had watched my nutrition before, but at that moment, she decided, it was an app. So she decided, oh, I'm not going to drink any milk products, and I'm not going to eat gluten, because she felt that this was disturbing her digestion. She had lactose intolerance. So that was what she picked, the settings. And I thought, just going to come along as a friend and cook with her and help her stick to it. And then after we did that for 3 months, and it was good for the mind also, because it forced us to have lunch breaks together. In our kind of job in the hospital, we didn't have time for lunch breaks. So we made it possible. It was really discipline. And even it was just 20 minutes, we took our, stuff that we cooked at home and ate it together. And yeah, so that was a really also good for the mind, of course, to relax a little bit and have a break. Yeah, and then I had a routine laboratory test after this food challenge, and all my values were normal. So yeah, I had no antibodies anymore, and even the ultrasound got better, which is considered usually impossible, but it got better.
Wow.
So
What
yeah.
was your doctor's reaction to that when he did the second test?
Yeah, she's actually she was quite surprised. I just saw the surprise on her face, and I saw at the ultrasound screen, I saw what was going on because in Switzerland, when I did my training, I also got a degree in ultrasound for the throat, so for the neck region. And so I was used to do ultrasounds of the thyroid. And I saw it myself. I thought, doesn't that look pretty normal, almost normal now? And then she said, well, that's really strange, she said, but it's kind of better than last time. Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. And so the thing that you did there was one was the diet change in terms of changing, you went on this healthy eating challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so was there anything else outside of that that you also did? You mentioned specifically having a lunch break, so making sure you guys had that 20 minutes. Was there anything else around that that you feel also changed because you started changing those things?
I think if you watch what you eat, it's a kind of self-care ritual. So there's more to it than specifically which nutritions you put into your body. That's one side of the coin. But the other side is you take care of yourself. You cook something healthy. It's a ritual. It's basically self-care. And I think that's and self-love. I would even go as far as to say that it's self-love. And that is very, very important, especially in diseases, autoimmune diseases, where the immune system attacks your body. So I think that's also an important component. Yeah. That's something that we do, if you do yoga or meditation, it's also a form of self-care. But if we do mindful eating and we watch how we eat and what we eat, and maybe we observe what thoughts are coming up while we're eating, that's also a way of connecting to your inner self. So that's important also, I think.
Yeah, I think that's so true because when you look at an autoimmune condition, it's like that definition that your body is attacking itself. And I love that you say that, yeah, look at the self-love aspect as well, because if we can love ourselves, then maybe our body won't feel the need to attack
Yeah,
itself, you
yeah,
know? And of course, I know it's not that simple, but there are all these different aspects that we can
hmm
pay attention
yeah.
to and give some
That's right.
energy to.
That's right. It's like a puzzle, when I treat my voice patients, so voices has become my specialty because I studied classical singing, so I have the passion for it. And with the voice, it's also like a puzzle. You have all these different components that you have to put together. And the emotional side is one of it. Lifestyle is one of it. And how you breathe is one of it. So of course you look at the vocal cords, and that's basically where it happens, and that's our main focus as ear, nose, and throat doctors. But it helps a big deal if we open up to the whole picture, because the voice is very much connected to the emotions. So, I mean, any illness is, but I think I would say in voice patients, it's very, very, very obvious, because when you're nervous, the voice starts shaking, your breath goes up, and all these things. So maybe also the discipline that I'm doing as a doctor just opened me up naturally to this perspective, because if you want to solve a very complex voice problem, you have to include all aspects. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. You can cut out. I mean, I do vocal cord surgery. It's one of my passions and specialties. I can cut out some swelling or polyp, but if you don't change everything that led to it, it will come back. So in the end, you have to see the whole picture. And there's also nutrition important because a lot of voice patients have problems with reflux, so acid from the stomach that comes up, and vocal technique and how the posture is, how your breathing is, and all your environmental factors. So in the end, the success recipe, I would say, is it's like a puzzle. You put all those different parts together, and it's a very individual way sometimes, because not for every patient one solution fits. Yeah, there might be some patients who totally reject any psychological work or mindset work. Then you'll find something else. Maybe that person is open to go for walks and do conscious breathing while walking, you know? Or
Yeah.
some people don't want to do voice therapy because they say, oh, no, no, I'm so stressed. I don't have time for this. This is going to put even more on my plate. So that, so then you have
Yeah.
to find some solution, simple solutions sometimes. And the simpler they are, the more successful they are most of the time.
Yeah, so true. And just out of curiosity, did you learn all of this in school? Like when you were training to be an ENT, this looking at the whole picture, being holistic, or
I
did this
love this.
come afterwards?
I love this question because no, I learned a lot about anatomy, physiology, pathology, and all the science behind it. And I don't want to miss that. It's the basic things that we need in order to understand how the body works, what happens during
Yeah.
illness, then later the surgery techniques. We need this knowledge, and I'm not saying it's less important, it's just both important. But all the other things was more my personal journey. I think it's also very much connected because I studied music and singing, which is so closely linked to emotions and body work. So probably because of that path, I was open more to these aspects. And then it was also being aware of, stress and what stress does with us when we have very stressful work schedules. And because of my singing, I knew about that because you can't sing on stage when you're in a very tense state. So you have to learn how to handle it. And then later, I, I found out, oh, you can bring that together. I can also, as a doctor, be that mindful, be connected to myself. But this came a lot later, after years of working as a doctor, that I just realized actually the big change happened for me during the pandemic. That that was my teacher, I would say, where the workload got so impossible to handle. I had, especially my swallowing patients, the numbers doubled to before the pandemic, during the pandemic. There were several reasons why that happened, the pandemic, but also other reasons. But this was just, and the patient needed the care, and I had to do it. There was nobody going to do it for me because I had this specialty and I was the only one in my team with a specialty. So I had to find ways, and I had long work hours, little sleep. And so I had to find a way for myself to deal better with it. And that's when I started to do the teacher training for the MBSR teacher that really helped me to go far deeper into the topic. And actually, which is what is interesting, is the motivation to do that was not for myself. I didn't want to do that just, to handle stress better. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
I can help other health professionals because I noticed that in the team, the tension was peaking, and everybody was so stressed by all these things that happened during the pandemic. So I thought, well, that helped me before. So why not teach it? Why not be the promoter for it? Because, I worked in a hospital that had a focus on surgery, especially. And in that field, people are not generally not so open to mind body techniques. So I thought, okay,
Right.
if I want to promote this, or if I wanted to be promoted, I have to do it myself because I'm one of them. So, nurses and therapists are usually quite open to these things, or much more open than doctors. or surgeons specifically. So I thought, okay, if I do it, then maybe they'll listen to
Yeah.
me. So that was the core motivation why I did it. And then only after that, I found out, oh, it helps me even more now because I get so much
Yeah.
deeper into it. And then
Into it. Yeah.
later the patients came to my classes. That was something that surprised me. I don't know, they found it somewhere online or something. I never promoted because I thought, oh no, let's not put these two things together because, I'm a doctor and this is just some other life I have. And then voice patients came to my classes, and it was so beautiful to see how that started to open up their voices without doing any vocal exercises, just working on breath, meditation, being self-aware. So, because when you're aware of what is going on, then you can change it. And then the voice therapists came. I said, what did you do with those patients? I want to learn this. And I even have some voice therapists now that are using some of the the exercises we're using in my program to kind of warm up the patients before they go into the vocal exercises. And they say it just accelerates everything. And so that's really, for me, a very beautiful way how everything came together.
Yeah. Wow. There's so much that I want to unpack here, that you've shared. Like so much, there's so much powerful information you've shared. And I'm gonna step into bits and pieces of it. So one is, what's the biggest impact that you feel mindfulness has had in your life, in your personal life?
It's really uh, finding a new way of connecting to myself, and everything I do comes from the inside. So I stopped working against my inner self. So when I was younger, it was more, okay, you're supposed to do this, you have to do that. It was more of maybe what I was expected to do. And now it's more, what is my calling? It's more connected to what I feel inside. So all my decisions are always based on, I always check in with my inside. How does it feel? Um, because sometimes a lot of decisions come from the ego. So they come from, oh, I want to do this. I want to be successful and I want people to be proud of me and these kinds of things. And that changed because now I learned that when you do things that are connected with your inner self, then things start to flow and the other things follow. The success follows, but you don't need to worry about that because you're so much in sync with your calling, with your inner self, that things just start to flow. And that's the beauty because then things get very easy. It doesn't mean you don't have to work hard anymore, but it's a different way of working. It's a little bit hard to describe, maybe, but
Yeah.
that's how I would put it.
Yeah. I get that though. I really get that. And I feel that as well sometimes when I'm in a state of flow. I'm just like, actually, it's because I've listened to that little nudge that was inside of me saying, hey, explore this. Whereas sometimes, even in this space and field that I'm working in now, when I try to be too structured and say, okay, this has to go in my calendar and I have to do it like this, then things don't pan out the way that I wanted to. And
Yeah,
and so I get what you're saying is just being more connected to yourself, listening and then letting it flow. And then it does flow.
yeah.
And that's where everything comes about. And I think that's where you also have this incredible impact that you're making in the world,
Mhm.
especially with what you're doing now. The second thing I wanted to touch on was this interesting thing you talked about is you're a doctor, and then you've also got these incredible other powerful techniques that you're using as well. And it's like, okay, I don't want to combine the two almost because it's like, well, on one hand, there's this identity and perception of a doctor, right? There's the
Mhm.
science-backed guy doing all the science-backed things and all of that. And you have this other stuff that's also really working well, but not necessarily adopted yet by the science community or the doctor world. And that must be a really interesting space for you to be in because you are literally living both lives and seeing the impact of both. Because you're right, the doctor's foundation, the knowledge, everything that you've learned is so incredibly important for you to do what you do. And then at the same time, all these other things that you've learned are also really supportive and helpful in treating not just yourself, but your patients as well. How are you finding this process now of you leading these two things? And are they ever merging?
Sorry, I didn't understand the last sentence of my connection.
So are they ever merging like these two
Yeah,
different practices? Because you're bringing them
yeah,
into your practice
yeah,
now.
yeah. They are starting to merge more and more. I try not to push it too much because,
Mhm.
yeah, I feel if somebody's open for this information, I'll give it. So sometimes people, before they go to my office, they Googled me and they found I'm doing these classes and they ask me about it. And then I speak
Oh,
about it. So I don't force this on to people. And sometimes, when I tell my voice patients about being aware, connect to their bodies, or how to breathe, or how to implement breathing exercises in everyday life, I use the knowledge from the MBSR techniques. So it's always merging somehow, but I don't say, oh, there's this John Kabat-Zinn and he invented this and this. Some people
yeah.
would just close their ears when I speak about that because they're not interested. But when I tell them I have a simple breathing trick that I sometimes when people are very stressed, I said, pick something that you do several times a day and link it to your breathing. So, for example, whenever you go into an elevator, those couple of minutes that you spend in there, you watch your breathing, nothing else, just watch your breathing. Don't change it, just watch it. And that's training the awareness. Or somebody who drives in a car a lot, for example, every time the red light comes up, you do that until it turns green, then you can release it. And those are very simple things, but they're powerful because if you do them several times a day, and that's breathing awareness. That's already one of the exercises we do at the MBSR training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And the other thing, how it's merging, what was very interesting is that I got invited to do lectures about this. And I didn't promote that, but somebody told somebody. And for example, I did a class. I never thought in my wildest dream that I'm going to do that. But I did
Yeah.
an MBSR workshop for eye surgeons. For in a surgery class. This was a course that was for training surgeons. So this was like a laboratory. They had, they had real eyes from pigs, and they had a microscope in there, and all their instruments and intravenous fluids to train the whole process. And I came in there with my MBSR stuff. It was funny because I thought this is the first time I really put this into a real life doctor situation and not just separately in a class where doctors come and nurses come and therapists come, but really put it into the setting. And I thought that's great, because they can use those tools when they're in the operating room. While they're waiting for the anesthesiologist to prepare everything, they have a couple of minutes. They can do a breathing exercise, to open up these spaces to it. And and it was really beautiful to see how they reacted to it. And there were a couple of people who told me that of the more experienced, they were female, more experienced female microsurgeons, and two of them said, "I've been doing this already." I said, "If I don't do my breathing awareness exercise before I start working, I don't perform so well." Said it makes me focused, I'm calm, and I I wouldn't handle the pressure otherwise. And that really, I mean, that made my heart sing because I thought, oh, how
Yeah.
great is that?
Yeah. I
So
love
yeah,
that. And
I think it's a process to,
it's a
for it to
process,
merge.
yeah. Exactly. And I think, it's beautiful how you're just doing it by leading by example, you doing opening up
Yeah.
when people ask, you provide it then. It's that sort of little ripple effect that's gonna create the bigger, wider change because you're opening the door to say, hey, this is a possibility. And then as you do more of these things, as you're doing these talks and these lectures, you're now also connecting with doctors who are like, I actually do this. It's never sort of been formalized that they do this kind of breathing technique before, but they're already doing it. Um, I
Mhm.
want to I want to touch on something that you had mentioned when we were speaking previously, which is the flip side of this. So yes, this is an incredible practice that doctors can use themselves, but there was something you said about when doctors speak to patients and the words
Mm.
that they use and how they approach their patients can really shape the outcome. And I thought that was wow, that was a powerful statement that you made. Could you share a little bit more about that, and maybe even an example that made you aware of that power of the words that you use as a doctor to your patient?
Yeah, yeah. That when you say that, I have goosebumps all over my body because it's so important. It's it's really so I was trying to explain before this flow state when I was on stage as a singer and I felt this the first time for myself, this flow state when you're really connected to yourself and connect to the audience. The same thing you can also have when you deal with a patient as a doctor. It's just it's the same thing, but it's a different setting. So you also have a patient in front of you that you connect with. And if you are really in balance with yourself and with your heart energy, it makes it so much easier to connect. And you don't have to cut out your brain to do that. You don't do that, by the way, in classical music because you have highly complicated music and opera scores to remember and different languages and whatever. So your brain is very, very active, your rational brain, very, very active. But at the same time, you're connected to your heart and you're connected to your emotions. And this is so, so important because when I was starting out as a young doctor, the older doctors told me, no, 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 you have to shut down there because, yeah, you get too vulnerable and you lock out your own emotions. This is the patient and you focus and your brain and like this. And then until much later, I understood, no, 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 you can actually do both at the same time. So that doesn't mean, I think the word compassion is maybe important here um, because when you have a patient in front of you that is suffering because you give them a really bad diagnosis, you can witness their pain, but it's not your pain. So you don't start crying. That's the difference. You are holding space. And that's what I learned as an MBSR teacher. I did not learn that in university as a doctor. And it's so important because that changes everything for that patient. Even if I'm telling them that they have a terrible diagnosis, a tumor, and it's really bad. But if you hold that space and you witness their pain, is the first step to healing, no matter what the diagnosis is. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't know. But they have to, they have a lot of fears, and they have to give space to those emotions. And the other thing is that be very careful. I'm saying, I hope some doctors are going to, or young doctors especially, going to listen to this. Be very careful what you say, how you give your information. Because if you judge or you give a judgment of, I don't know, you're going to live 3 more months, not more at most, and it's going to be like this, you don't know. You have statistics, and you know that it's probably not very likely this patient is going to live longer than 3 months, but you don't know. And all of us know these miracles. Suddenly, people heal, or it takes much longer until they die, and we don't even know why. And I've always been amazed by these cases So when I meet patients like that suddenly healed from something incurable, I always ask them, what did you do? And a lot of them say something had to do with accepting the illness, accepting not knowing the outcome, and joy, having joy in your life, even though you have this terrible diagnosis. Make the best of what they can in their circumstances and enjoy and laugh and be with their families and embrace that fate that they have. And so I think it's really, really important how you connect with a patient and what you say. So in the end, when you are aware with yourself, that has the impact how you have a relationship with the other person that is sitting in front of you. And so I stopped being that closed in when people ask about prognosis. And I'm starting to say it more openly. And if they want numbers, I said there are statistics, and this percentage is like that, but we don't know on which end of the statistic you're sitting. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. So it's more about accepting what is going on in your body, about self-love, and also giving tools what the patients can do themselves. That doesn't exclude doing the normal process of, for example, cancer treatments or something, but this goes parallel, and that empowers the person. So if you tell them, no, there's nothing you can do, we have to do the chemotherapy, we have to do this operation, that's not helpful for the patient. Okay, it's helpful to know that we have a plan and that we have a path where we're going to go, but not all of the patients, but most of them want to know what they can do themselves. And that's the emotional part of the journey of the illness that has to be addressed. And so I try to somehow integrate it. Yeah. That's very important to watch our words, how we put things. Because that can be very limiting, very limiting. So for example, you're never gonna do this and this again. Yeah, I had a singer once. She went to another doctor and she had a diagnosis that was quite kind of doesn't heal very often. And so she was told, you'll never be on stage again. And I thought, why don't we try whatever we can try and let's see what happens. And then there's always room. Even if you have the most fatal diagnosis, there's always some room how you can compensate, how you can at least deal with it in a good way emotionally. Because the thing is, suffering happens. What is suffering? It's not depending on what is happening around you or in your body. It's how you react to it. So somebody can suffer having a very minor health issue because of the way he deals with it, the way he or she responds to it. And somebody with a major cancer diagnosis that knows he or she is going to die soon can not suffer because the person chooses to respond differently. For example, the cancer diagnosis opened a different dimension to their lives. If they're willing to open to that and see it as a gift, that sounds really crazy, but it can, because you get a new view on life when you're confronted with death like that. So all of a sudden, you start thinking about, okay, I don't have long to live. What do I really want in life? What is really important? I want to spend time with my family. You know, I want to be out in nature, whatever. And that can make that life quality until the end so valuable that some people start living like they never lived before. And that can change so much. And that's then what I wanted to say with the suffering. It's the way you respond to what is happening around you. And it's such a gift to see when you see patients like that and they're able to embrace their fate like that. Suffering stops. And then the beauty of life unfolds, even though there is a very terrible illness. Yeah.
And how big a role do you feel the doctor can play in that response and reaction to suffering?
A very big one. I mean, of course, the other person has to be open to it, but it's how you put things. You can make
Yeah.
suggestions, yeah, and you can make suggestions what they can do. And still, of course, it's very important that you guide and you give a feeling of safety, or that you point out what the path's going to be on the medical level, that there is some safety there. But then you can add the other things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's something I learned over the years, maybe also from own life experience dealing with suffering myself, that's really it. That's really
Yeah.
what can change how much we
What can
have
change
to
everything?
suffer. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a powerful, powerful realization and perspective shift as well on suffering and how you can respond to it, and the
Yeah.
role that these words and the information you receive can have an impact on your own response. And
Mhm.
this kind of, if you think about it, it plays out in all aspects of life. There's doctor-patient relationships. There's also how you speak to yourself and how you tell
Mhm.
yourself certain things that are going to impact you. Are you going to say, I can't do this. Oh, I wish I could play piano, but I can't play piano. You're then telling yourself that you can't do it rather than giving yourself, hang on, maybe there's a way. Why don't we just try and see what happens? Like what you said with that singer who had that diagnosis. Did that person ever sing again?
Oh yeah, I forgot the whole point. She's
You
back on
forgot the
stage.
ending.
Yeah, she's back on stage. Yeah.
Yeah, she's back on stage because the difference there is that you gave her a different angle to look at it, a different
Yeah.
way to shift the perspective and say, well, why don't we just try, right? It doesn't have to be the end all. Um, and I think we
Yeah.
could all use a little bit of that in our life, in every area of our life.
It's basically creating space, like creating room for new possibilities and not being attached to the outcome. Of course, then in that case, I don't tell the patient, hey, you do this and then you're going to be back on stage. Well, we don't know. And we start getting comfortable with not knowing and just being open to what happens and just go through the journey and let things unfold. And that makes a big difference. And it's funny that you mentioned the thing with the piano. I want to add one little story because when I
Yeah.
was 16 years old, I was not singing yet. I was playing the piano and I hurt my tendons. I was growing a lot. I was growing about, I think, 10 centimeters in a year. And no, it was actually, I was 14. I was growing so much. And then I got this chronic inflammation of the tendons on my arms, on my forearms. And I couldn't play the piano anymore. It hurt so bad. So I got a cast on both arms, and it was a horrible story. And I
Well,
couldn't write anymore. And there, I went to this orthopedic specialist. He was specialist for professionals, pianists here in Vienna. And I asked him, no, what can I do? And then he looked at me and said, you're never gonna play the piano anymore. You're never gonna play the piano anymore. And I just cried. I loved playing the piano. I didn't sing yet, so I didn't have anything else. That led me later to start singing, which was not a bad thing. But well, fast forward a couple of years, I got a very good physiotherapist, and after 2 years, I got rid of this. And then I did the audition for the music university for singing, and I had to play the piano there to it's like an entrance exam. So if you pass, you have to have music theory and piano and also singing, of course. And I thought, okay, I can't do it because I can't play the piano. I'm not allowed to play the piano, get this thing again. So I went to a really good piano teacher, a friend recommended, and I was in tears. I said, I know probably you can't help me because I want to do this. I want to train to be a singer, but I can't play the piano because I get this chronic inflammation again. She looked at me and said, play for me once. So I played. She looked at me and said, it's a technical problem. You have too much tension. So we're gonna fix that. Don't worry. I studied with her for 1 year, passed my exam, and I never, ever had that pain again. So, and I studied singing. I did my bachelor's degree, and I had piano all the time because I had to learn how to accompany. I never had any problems, ever. So that was
Look at that. That's a clear example of one person
yeah,
telling you one thing and the other one saying
yes,
something different.
yes. And if people are judgmental like that and limit your possibilities, it's their problem. You know, when you as a patient, you have a feeling you could find another path with your illness, then try it. I'm not saying leave school medicine. I did school medicine with my inflammation on my arms, but do it your way. Yeah, do it what feels right for you.
Wow, I love that. So powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
So much has come through from here. It's just incredible. I know anyone and everyone listening to this is going to get so much value from everything that you've just shared. Thank you so much. And I just want to say that one other really big point I got from this, from everything you shared, is that working on yourself and being more present with yourself helps you become not only a better person, but actually a better doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Is that?
That's another goosebump moment. Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
put it, you have this ability to put things beautifully together and make it very simple, right to the point. And you just did that. Yeah, that's
Thank
really
you. Yeah.
it's one of
But
the key messages. Yeah.
yeah, it's one of the key messages.
What makes us a better person makes us a better whatever professional, you know.
Whatever profession.
Any caring profession, especially in healthcare, of
Yeah.
course, but in any profession.
Yeah. And I was going to say that I feel the same thing for myself over the last few years as I've continued to support myself, build myself up, heal myself. I found that I'm able to be so much more present and available for clients in the way that they need,
Hmm.
right? And
Yes.
sometimes it is just that holding space. Let them go through the motions and the feelings that they're going through.
Yeah.
But I would never be able to do that if I wasn't present for myself, because immediately my judgmental brain would be switching on and be like, oh, these guys are doomed, or this is happening, or why can't they just stick to this? But now it's more like be present, meet them where they're at, and just guide
Yes.
them the way in which they need to be guided.
Yes. That's really puts it right there. That's so
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
That's so important
exactly.
because they all have
Okay.
their own tempo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, that they need to go to. So, as we're reaching up to time, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing so much incredible wisdom, power, and truth behind, yeah, mindfulness and how incredibly powerful it can be for yourself and then for what you do out there in the world. And I just want to end this conversation with a question that I ask every guest that comes on, and that is, if healing had a voice, what would it say to you today?
Healing starts with connecting to yourself. It's actually already what you said before. As a coach or healthcare practitioners, when you connect to yourself, when you do the inner work, then you enable also the healing better of the other person. But that's also when you are a patient yourself. So if you connect to your inner self, it could be a very simple way just to watch your breathing, feel your body, feel the sensations, connect to your inside, create that space and that room for to feel what is there, what emotions are there, what sensations are in the body, what thoughts are there. And it's not about stopping anything, just being aware of it and create that space. It's a form of actually accepting what is, not trying to change it, not trying to be something. And if you connect that way, that's where the healing can start. Then you find your way of your path, you know. It takes practice. And if you do that a couple of times every day, even if it's just 3 minutes, it would change everything because then you feel what your body needs, what your soul needs. And yeah, it's a little bit to connect to your inner guidance. Maybe that's how you could put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that would be pretty much, I think, the essence of it.
That's just, yeah, perfect. Well, I love that so much. Thank you so much, Antonia. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And to everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, helped you, or made you feel seen, please be sure to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And come join our free Facebook community, Eat Better, Think Better. It's where these conversations continue and where you'll find real people walking the same path. So if you're ready to go deeper in your own journey, whether it's healing your relationship with food, shifting your mindset, or breaking free from beliefs that are holding you back, you'll find more support, resources, and ways to work with me at www.eatbetterthinkbetter.com. So until next time, here's to eating better, thinking better, and living a phenomenal life. Let's go.